Okay, so today I wanted to cover something that came up a little while ago, article repurposing or video repurposing. And so I was chatting with Dennis Yu. If you guys don't know who Dennis Yu is, get to know him, Google him, you'll find him very easily. He is a phenomenal human being and a quality SEO. So when Dennis tells you something, you should listen. He's got years of experience as a search engine engineer, and knows what he's talking about. So I was chatting with Dennis, um, and I asked him, "Hey, I could write some articles for you. I could repurpose some of the videos that you're doing." And so I grabbed this video and I went and made an article out of it. Now, this is not my best moment. Dennis rightly called me out in it, and I will explain what that looks like in a bit. So I took this video that Dennis did. It was an audit that he did, and I was going to repurpose it and then just do like a summary article for the audit. So I went over to ChatGPT and I wanted to create AI Dennis. And so I did. I created this GPT for Dennis. The ChatGPT knows a lot about Dennis. He's a prominent figure in the SEO and marketing industry. And so I created this AI Dennis. And one thing that the AI does really well is embellish things. And so I went through and I fed a whole bunch of Dennis's content that he's created, his articles that he's written. So the AI knew the way that knows the way he speaks, knows the kinds of terminology he uses. So I go through and I create AI Dennis, and I think this is going to be awesome. Um, and this is what a lot of gurus teach. They say you got to teach the AI on somebody so that you get the tone of voice, you can get the way that they speak, and then you can write articles, have the AI write for you. Now, something that Dennis did say in our conversation was AI can advise, but it should not be writing or should not be used to write. And I agree 100%. And we're going to dig into this to see why. So I sent this to Dennis, shameful. Uh, and so, Dennis, when you watch this, sorry for sending this to you. This shouldn't have been sent. And so, like I said, Dennis called me out on it. He says to me, "Did you even read it?" And naturally, I did, but it was written by AI, Dennis. And so I'm going back through this now. I'm going to do this video. This is going to be published, and we're going to walk through and see what is wrong with this article. And so we're going to get started. So Dennis did this video on this audit with Chris Powers from Southern Values Cooling and Heating. And you can find the audit online. And Dennis has this Facebook group, Digital Marketing with Dennis Yu, and it's fantastic. You should jump in there and for sure join it and go check out the stuff he's got in there. So, but we're going to go right into this. So this is AI Dennis created, um, but it's missing a few things. The first thing that I want to touch on here is when we're looking at content, the way that we're writing it, we want to make it helpful, but we also want to follow Google's guidelines, EEAT, experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And a lot of people say, well, that's more for like your money, your life, content, things like that. But it it's not. It's for the user experience on the web. And so we want to make, regardless of whether you're a local business or you have an e-com store or you are doing your money, your life stuff, or you're doing affiliate marketing, this is a really, really good guide to follow. And Dennis goes through all this in his content. And so definitely check it out. Um, Google says these are not fundamentally new ideas, which is so true. Search and just SEO in general is about relationship. It's about connecting with other people and connecting people together. And so when people go online, they type in a query, right? And they're looking for a service or a product. And if you have that service or product, you want to be able to tell Google about your product or service so that when somebody's searching for it, Google goes, "Oh, hey, I know the best one for you. Here you go. Here are the results for that." That's the idea, anyways. Um, and Google hasn't been maybe doing the best at that lately with recent updates, but this is what we want to talk about, and this is how we want to approach article writing, even if you're a local business. And so we'll get into that, get into what it looks like to do co-creating content which Dennis is big on, he teaches on, and I'm a firm believer in. So let's get back into the article. Now, the first thing I want to point out is the heading. Often the AI will emphasize things or overemphasize things. And so even the heading, boosting your digital presence, a blueprint from the audit of Southern Values Heating and Cooling. The content in here isn't necessarily a blueprint for this. Really what I was wanting from the AI that was not executed well on my end was this should be a summary of the audit that was done and what needs to be done to make Chris Power's website more visible online, build his authority online, rank his business locally. Those are the things that should have come out of this audit, and that's not what came to fruition. There's certain concepts and topics that we'll look at that are mentioned in here, but they need to be expanded on. They need to be simplified in, well, you'll see. So right away, we can get into this intro. I've put the passcode here and the video URL from the audit, so you can go and you can watch it. And so speaking from Dennis's perspective, remember this is AI Dennis that wrote this, that I created, and it just does a horrible job of presenting who Dennis is, first of all, and then also communicating this a summary of this audit. So you can see, hey, the digital marketers, it just goes on, and then Dennis, you here, we're doing a deep dive into a transformative audit conducted for Chris Powers. This transformative audit. If you know Dennis or you listen to any of his stuff, this isn't how he talks, first of all. So X, number one, it doesn't sound like Dennis. And when we're looking at creating articles and content, we want, if we're doing it on behalf of somebody, it needs to be in their voice, in their tone, the way that they speak. It needs to be convincing. It needs to be genuine and authentic. And so when that's really hard to do when you're doing it on behalf of somebody. So in a case like this, what we want to do is we want to do more summarizing because Dennis has already phrased things and he does that in the video. And so we've taken the transcript of the video and the AI just ran with it here. So first thing, like I said, it doesn't sound like Dennis. The next thing that I want to cover is things like this. So the headings, AI will inject headings in and write headings and overemphasize things or describe things so that they are not, so they're less authentic. So when we have this here, Dennis talks about goals, content, and targeting a lot if you dig into his content, but in here, we don't necessarily refer to it as the Holy Trinity. So when we're creating articles like this, we can keep things simple, just simple and descriptive. We don't have to go into this big grandiose description of things. So the Holy Trinity of digital success, goals, content, and targeting. Again, that's not how Dennis phrases things. He's just direct to the point and says it like it is. So this doesn't sound like Dennis either. And then when we get into the content, we can see Chris's business is the embodiment of quality service. That's, again, it's not how Dennis speaks. So that's when we talk about relational SEO, building relationships and knowing people, knowing who your audience is, who your target is, creating content for them or on behalf of them. This is important. So knowing how Dennis speaks, even though AI Dennis was trained on tons of articles of Dennis speaking, it still got it wrong. And so that's something that we need to be careful of. So to shine a spotlight on Southern values, transforming it from a well-paying gig into a thriving, sustainable business. Now, in the video, something like this is mentioned. It's brought up that right now it's just a well-paying gig, but it's not a sustainable business. And so there is some accuracy to this that was phrased like that. But in terms of the goals, this doesn't really highlight Chris's goals. And the script does talk about what Chris's goals are. Why did he show up? Why did he reach out to Dennis? Those are important things. But on a when we're talking about goals on a local service business website specifically, like what are the goals of the website? To drive leads, right? To get more calls, to gain visibility online, and to build a brand for yourself, a reputable brand. And so while this has some accuracy in it about his business is a well-paying gig, and then he wants to convert it to a sustainable business, the wording and the phrasing around this just is not, doesn't sound like Dennis, and doesn't sound like Chris either. So the conversation that was being had, this doesn't represent that well. Now, the next thing, again, the phrasing. When AI takes content and it starts writing on its own, it it says things that just aren't natural or are not consistent with who the speaker is at the time. So even phrases like endears, Dennis doesn't use that phrase. So creating community-focused content that showcases not just what you do, but who you are. It's about creating a digital persona that resonates with your local audience. Like this stuff's all true, but when you get into some of the phrasing, it just needs to be changed. The content needs to speak to the audience. So on a local business website like Chris's, the content should show Chris's business, Chris and his business partner doing the work, real photos of people doing the work that they say they do in the place that they do it, right? Genuine, authentic photos. Those are the things that we're going to be looking for here. And including those in this article, examples of those is going to be important. So as we scroll down, you'll see a few photos in here, but they're not, um, they don't complete this article. So as we get into the targeting portion, so we're talking about a website for Southern Values Cooling and Heating. This is actually a new website, not the one that was in the video. They had this rebuilt. In fact, in the video, Dennis went and hired somebody for Chris on, what was it, Fiverr or Upwork? I don't remember. I should know that. Um, Yeah, on Upwork. They did it on Upwork. Anyways, so he went and he hired somebody to do the website for Chris, right there on the video. And so you can go check that out. It's a great, there's some great gold nuggets of how to hire people, how to write descriptions for hiring people, things like that. It's fantastic. So again, this doesn't communicate the way that Dennis does. And then even phrasing like a shotgun approach to digital marketing, question mark, that's a hard no. Dennis doesn't talk like that. Um, when we talk about targeting for a local business website, the target is local people looking for the services that they offer. And so that's really what it comes down to, is communicating those services to the kind of people that are going to be buying your products and services, knowing them in the local area, making sure that the messaging uh, is targeted to the right people. And so that's where that goes. But this doesn't do a horrible job communicating it, but again, it doesn't sound like Dennis or Chris. And so this is that's a huge point here. Now we want to talk about the digital plumbing because that was an important part that got brought up in the video. The foundations of a website, the website code needs to be good, but digital plumbing, the things like the Facebook pixel being on there, analytics and tag management, those kinds of things, so that tracking can be done, so that the business owner or website owner can make informed decisions about what to do. And then they can also do retargeting using social media or other channels, right? Dennis is big on dollar a day ads. So whether it's on Facebook or Twitter or wherever it is, you can run dollar a day ads. And so that's for another thing as well. So on this summary or on this article, we get into it more of this phrasing, the way that it's communicating these things, describing these things, is not like Dennis. It doesn't sound like him. So even though these concepts are there, it's not authentic. And so what I want to do, that's the biggest thing in here, is the content, the writing is not authentic. It doesn't show um, who it doesn't it doesn't show who Dennis is, doesn't show who Chris is or their website, those kinds of things. It's not doesn't demonstrate the experience, expertise, authority, and trust that Google would be looking for in an article like this. Now, how do we do that? How do we demonstrate that? I want to go through this article. So the second part of the video coming up is going to be going through this article live, fixing it, collecting images and rewriting it so that it does demonstrate expertise or experience, expertise, authority, and trust, so that it's a valuable article that can go onto, well, maybe onto the Blitzmetrics website or somewhere else. But either way, this will be a great learning experience for everybody. So one, this is how not to write an article, especially when you're writing on behalf of somebody in their tone of voice. Okay, so get that one straight. We have to understand who Southern Values Cooling and Heating Inc. is, the services that they provide. This is big, and this is often gets missed. And this is the number one VA mistake that Dennis always talks about, is knowing who you're writing content for, knowing the business that you're writing on behalf of, and then who their target is. So these are important things. And so we'll go through this article in the next video, and we are going to rewrite it, pick it apart, demonstrate experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And so at the end of it, I'd love to have Dennis jump on and do a review of it. And then we can go through, we can do some back and forth and see how he would tweak things, fix things, how we can challenge the article to make it more, or demonstrate experience, expertise, authority, and trust in a more meaningful way, and make this the best article it can be. So I hope you guys join me for that. I will be posting that. I'll post the fix at a little bit later date, and then we can get into reviewing it once that's done.